Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to be breaking down a raw, chaotic, and honestly deeply fascinating snapshot of the true crime news homepage. Specifically, we're looking at headlines captured during June and July of 2026. You know, when you pull back and look at an entire news feed dedicated strictly to crime, you get this unique, completely unfiltered mirror reflecting the absolute extremes of human behavior. It's a lot of information to process for sure, but we're going to organize this digital front page into some clear, understandable patterns. So, to make sense of it all, we've organized these headlines into 5 distinct themes. First, the true crime landscape. Then, bizarre and baffling offenses, tragedy close to home, pop culture and crime, and finally, justice finally delivered. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. The true crime landscape and the emotional whiplash that comes with it.
This brilliantly illustrates the extreme contrast in modern crime reporting. I mean, in one breath, you have an infuriated customer allegedly threatening Taco Bell employees with a gun just because her fast food order was taking too long. It's a scenario rooted in absolute absurdity, right? Just a total lack of impulse control over something incredibly trivial. But then, literally right next to it in the newsfeed, your brain has to instantly process a teenager being sentenced to life in prison for the unthinkable strangling of a 5-year-old child found in a dumpster. It perfectly captures the modern media experience. You're pitting a relatively harmless, almost cartoonish fast food dispute directly against an unimaginable, heartbreaking tragedy, all within the span of a single scroll.
Moving right along to Section 2, Bizarre and Baffling Offenses. These are the real head-scratching headlines.
Here we find a rapid-fire list of strange, deeply baffling behavior that really just stops you in your tracks. First off, a Florida man allegedly weaponizing a bag of urine, feces, and hot sauce against an ex-partner after a breakup. Yikes. Then, court documents out of Indiana accuse a man of quite literally helicoptering his genitals right out in his neighbor's yard. And, finally, stepping from the absurd into the totally macabre, a Kentucky man who allegedly kept his wife's corpse sitting in his living room for months. He actually tried to disguise the inescapable reality of the situation with everyday laundry detergent. I mean, it is a stunning spectrum of alleged offenses.
And get a load of this. Consider the actual label a Kentucky couple allegedly wrote on a bag they were trying to hide. When you read a label that explicitly states, complete with a highly creative spelling error, definitely not a bag full of drugs, well, you can probably guess what the police found inside. Yep, exactly as you'd expect. Drugs. It really highlights the sometimes astonishing lack of sophistication in the crimes flashing across these news feeds.
But you know, sometimes the bizarre intersects directly with the deeply tragic. Just look at this number. 16. Authorities in Ohio were simply showing up at a residence to serve a warrant for indecent exposure charges. Now, normally that might just be a brief, strange little headline, but instead they stumbled upon a horrific scene and had to rescue 16 children from a squalid home. It really goes to show how quickly a routine, odd headline can instantly unmask a massive, hidden crisis.
It's incredibly easy to get caught up in the bizarre and the absurd when reading the news, right? But as that last event just showed us, we really have to ask, how does a landscape shift when the focus moves away from the strange and directly toward devastating, close-to-home tragedies? That brings us to Section 3, Tragedy Close to Home, focusing on domestic crimes and child abuse. This is undeniably the heaviest part of our explainer. The crucial point here is that true crime is overwhelmingly, intensely domestic. For instance, we see a father who fed his own baby a lethal dose of cocaine simply because he didn't want her, or a man who allegedly shot his ex-partner 8 times, all while the kids were in the very next room. And in Alabama, a teenage boy allegedly killing his mother and attempting to kill his father, simply over an argument about being disciplined. The proximity of the danger is what makes these stories so deeply unsettling, you know? The threat isn't some stranger in a dark alley, it's right inside the house.
Now take a second to process this chilling statement. I feel no guilt for this. That was actually said by Utah parents who pleaded guilty to child abuse homicide following the neglect's death of their toddler. Hearing those words in the context of a child's death, it completely shatters our standard expectations of parental instincts and remorse. It's headlines exactly like this that keep audiences completely transfixed by true crime. We're all just trying to understand the psychology behind such a profound lack of empathy.
These additional headlines further underscore the profound vulnerability of children in this specific news cycle. Whether it's 3 children allegedly abandoned by their mother in a Michigan home so filthy that technicians required actual hazmat suits just to process it, or a 7-year-old girl targeted by a naked man attempting a kidnapping in an Oregon public park, or a California mother fatally stabbing her 4-year-old daughter during a severe psychotic episode.
Across different states and wildly different circumstances, the youngest among us are repeatedly at the center of the homepage's most tragic narratives.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Section 4, Pop Culture and Crime. The crossover.
The source material dedicates significant, prominent space to these pop culture crossovers. The newsfeed isn't just about anonymous individuals anymore. It's asking if rapper Pooh Shiesty allegedly ambushed and kidnapped his own boss just to terminate a contract. It's dedicating whole articles to dissecting why a specific figure like Mackenzie Shirilla is suddenly having a moment in the public eye. It's tracking the preliminary hearings for artists like D4VD. This brilliantly illustrates how music contracts, internet infamy, and celebrity legal battles are seamlessly packaged as mainstream crime entertainment, sitting right next to local news stories on the very same homepage.
And finally, we arrive at Section 5, Justice Finally Delivered, Sentences and Cold Cases.
But even the courtroom isn't immune to the bizarre. Before receiving his sentence, a Georgia man who actually gouged out his own eyes and bit off his tongue made this shocking, unfiltered declaration to the court: "I am a divine being." It's a stark reminder of the often severe mental health crises that judges and juries are forced to navigate when attempting to hand down justice.
And when that justice is handed down, the sheer weight of the judicial system is fully evident. For example, an Illinois man was handed a staggering 120-year sentence. His crime? Kidnapping a woman from a Starbucks parking lot at knife point and raping her. It's a terrifying daylight abduction from a place of everyday routine, met with an overwhelming absolute response from the legal system meant to ensure he never, ever walks free again.
Furthermore, this next headline serves as an incredibly powerful reminder of the persistence of the justice system. A California man getting a life sentence for the rape and murder of a 7th grader. What is absolutely critical here is the date, 1982. Even after 4 long decades, cold cases are still actively being pursued, solved, and perpetrators are finally receiving life behind bars. It provides a real sense of closure to a homepage that is otherwise just filled with ongoing chaos.
In fact, life sentences and execution dates absolutely dominate the most popular and recent news feeds. We see a Florida teen getting life for a random violent shooting at a girl leaving a movie theater. A West Virginia man getting life for the double murder of his fiancée and her mother in a house fire. An Arkansas man receiving life plus an additional 22 years for shooting and dismembering his ex. And finally, an execution date being set for a Georgia man who raped and killed a 5-year-old girl. This steady drumbeat of severe sentencing really reflects society's deep collective interest in seeing ultimate accountability for extreme violence. I mean, we read the horrifying news, but we stay to ensure the story ends with justice.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought. We have looked at the bizarre, the deeply tragic, the celebrity crossovers, and the severe punishments handed down by the courts. But you really have to ask yourself, does our cultural obsession with this endless, daily cycle of true crime headlines actually bring us closer to understanding justice and human nature? Or does clicking through this daily snapshot of society's worst moments merely pull us deeper into the darkness? It's definitely something to think about the next time you find yourself scrolling through the news. Thank you so much for joining me, and as always, keep questioning the information in front of you.